Welcome to Crime Story with Camila, where we dive deep into the most chilling and mysterious true crime cases. If you love real-life crime stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and share so you never miss an update. Your support helps us bring you the most in-depth investigations and untold stories. January 26, 1966. Australia Day. A morning that should have been filled with celebration, sunshine, and safety. In the quiet suburb of Somerton Park, Adelaide, 3 children prepared for what seemed like the simplest adventure. A short bus ride, a day at the beach, and a promise to come home before lunch. Jane Beaumont, just 9 years old, serious, responsible, already acting like a second mother. Arnna, 7, bright-eyed, playful, trusting. And Grant, only 4, too young to understand danger, too young to know fear. Their mother watched them leave. She didn't know it would be the last time she would ever see her children alive. By noon, they were supposed to be home. But noon passed. Then 1 o'clock. Then 2. And with every ticking second, something in Australia quietly broke. Because somewhere between a bus stop and the shoreline, between laughter and silence, between innocence and evil, 3 children vanished, without a single trace. No screams were heard. No struggle was seen. No clues were left behind. Only questions. And a mystery so dark, it would haunt an entire nation for generations. Music fades into a low, unsettling hum. This is the story of the Beaumont children. That morning began with nothing out of the ordinary. Inside a modest home on Hardy Street, the Beaumont household was awake early. Sunlight crept through the windows. The day already felt warm. Nancy Beaumont moved through the kitchen, preparing lunch. Meat pies, pasties, food meant to be eaten by 3 children who were expected to return home safely. She counted out coins for the bus fare and placed them carefully into Jane's hand. Jane nodded. She had done this before. At just 9 years old, Jane carried responsibility well beyond her age. She knew the rules. She knew the route. She knew the promise. "We'll be back by noon." Those words would later replay in Nancy's mind. Over and over and over again. The children dressed themselves. Grant clutched his towel tightly, barely able to contain his excitement. Arnna skipped ahead, carefree and smiling. Jane led the way, protective, confident. Nancy watched from the doorway as they walked down the street toward the bus stop. She didn't call them back. She didn't hesitate. She didn't sense danger. Because in 1966, this was normal. Children were trusted. Strangers were not feared. The world still felt safe. The bus arrived. The doors closed. And just like that, the Beaumont children disappeared into the day, unaware they had just stepped into one of Australia's darkest mysteries. Somerton Beach was crowded that day. Families spread blankets across the sand. Children ran barefoot along the shoreline. Laughter filled the air. And somewhere among them were the Beaumont children. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Several witnesses later told police they saw 3 children matching their descriptions, playing near the water's edge. They appeared relaxed, happy, but they weren't alone. Multiple people independently described a man with them. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't forceful. He didn't stand out. That was the problem. He was described as tall and thin, with fair to light brown hair, wearing swimming trunks, clean-cut, well-spoken. Witnesses said the children seemed to trust him. One woman later recalled watching the man help them change out of their wet clothes. A detail that didn't feel alarming at the time, but now sends chills down the spine. Another witness noticed the man lifting Grant, the youngest, onto his shoulders. No fear, no resistance, just obedience. And then came the detail that made investigators stop cold. Around noon, Jane Beaumont entered a local shop alone. She was calm, polite, composed. She purchased food for herself and her siblings. And she paid with a £1 note. Her parents had never given her that kind of money. Jane had never carried that much cash. So where did it come from? Someone had given it to her. Someone who wanted the children to trust him. Someone who was close enough, comfortable enough, to stay unseen. That was the last confirmed sighting of the Beaumont children. After that moment, they vanished. No witnesses saw them leave the beach. No one saw them get on a bus. No one saw them struggling. They simply stopped existing. Beach sounds slowly distort and fade into a low, ominous tone. And as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, one terrifying truth became clear. The Beaumont children had not just wandered off. They had been taken. By late afternoon, the silence was unbearable. When the Beaumont children failed to return home, Nancy Beaumont no longer waited. She searched the streets herself. She went to the bus stop. She scanned every passing face. Nothing. As daylight slipped away, police were finally notified. Within hours, Somerton Park transformed from a quiet beachside suburb into the center of a growing nightmare. Officers combed the shoreline. They questioned lifeguards, shop owners, and families who had been on the beach that day. Every lead, no matter how small, was chased, but there was nothing solid to hold on to. By the next morning, the story broke nationwide. Newspapers printed the children's photographs across their front pages. Radios interrupted regular programming. Television anchors spoke their names slowly, carefully, as if saying them too quickly might erase them forever.
Jane.
Arnna.
Grant.
Australia held its breath. Volunteers flooded Somerton Beach. Strangers walked shoulder to shoulder, scanning sand dunes, storm drains, and abandoned buildings. Fishermen dragged nets through nearby waters. Police called it one of the largest search operations in Australian history. And yet, not a single shoe was found. Not a towel. Not even a footprint that led somewhere meaningful. Days passed. Hope began to fracture. Every phone call raised hearts, only to shatter them again. Every reported sighting ended in disappointment. As the investigation expanded, an unsettling realization began to sink in. Whoever took the Beaumont children didn't act impulsively. They didn't leave chaos behind. They planned. They blended in. And they vanished just as cleanly as their victims. As Australia waited, watching, listening, praying, one truth became impossible to ignore. This wasn't just a missing persons case anymore. It was something darker, something calculated. And the longer the silence lasted, the harder it became to believe the children were still alive. Music drops to near silence. One slow breath. But without bodies, the nightmare refused to end. As years passed and leads dried up, the Beaumont case began to collect shadows. Names whispered behind closed doors. Rumors shared quietly. Suspects who could never quite be proven. But one name refused to fade. Harry Phipps. On the surface, Phipps appeared respectable. A wealthy businessman. A factory owner, a man with influence. But beneath that polished exterior was something deeply unsettling. Phipps was known to frequent Somerton Beach. He was familiar with children, comfortable around them. Too comfortable. Years after the disappearance, disturbing stories began to emerge. Witnesses claimed that Phipps had confessed privately, not to police, but to people he trusted. According to those accounts, Phipps allegedly admitted to abducting the Beaumont children after drugging them. He claimed he took them away from the beach, somewhere isolated, somewhere hidden, and then he said he killed them. The alleged confession was chilling, not just for what he claimed to have done, but for how calmly he said it. No emotion, no hesitation, as if he were describing an inconvenience, not the murder of 3 children. But there was more. Phipps later purchased land in Adelaide, land that would become the site of a factory built years after the children vanished. Investigators began to wonder, what if the answers had been buried all along? Decades later, in 2018, police made a stunning move. They announced they would excavate the former Phipps factory site. For weeks, the nation watched as heavy machinery tore into the ground. Every scoop of earth carried hope
And dread.
But when the digging ended, there were no remains, no clothing, no proof. Once again, the Beaumont children slipped through history's fingers. And Harry Phipps? He died in 2004. Never charged, never questioned in court, never forced to explain what he knew, or why his name still sends a chill through this case. Music drops to silence. Because whether he was responsible or not, one terrifying fact remains. Someone knew exactly what happened to the Beaumont children, and they took that knowledge to the grave. Harry Phipps was not the only shadow hanging over this case. Over the decades, investigators were forced to confront a far more disturbing possibility. That the man seen with the Beaumont children was never identified because he was ordinary. Not a drifter, not a monster hiding in plain sight, but someone who belonged. Another person of interest was James O'Neill, a convicted child predator who lived disturbingly close to Somerton Beach. He matched witness descriptions. He had a documented obsession with children, and he was active in the area at the time. Yet, once again, there was no physical evidence, no confession, that could stand in court. No proof strong enough to hold. And so, O'Neill remained a question mark. Some investigators believed the children were taken by someone who earned their trust quickly. A man who appeared gentle, helpful, safe. Someone who knew how to speak to children. Someone who understood that fear would only attract attention. Others believed the crime was planned long before that day. That the beach wasn't chosen randomly. That Australia day, crowded and chaotic, was the perfect cover. And then there's the most haunting theory of all. That the Beaumont children were not killed immediately. That they may have been kept alive.
Hidden somewhere.
Controlled. Waiting. If true, it means their parents may have been searching while their children were still breathing. That they may have cried out. And no one heard them. As time passed, the case grew colder. Witness memories faded. Evidence vanished. Suspects died. But the fear didn't. Because if the Beaumont children were taken by a stranger, then that stranger was never caught. And if he was never caught, he may not have stopped. Music lowers into a near whisper. The mystery didn't just remain unsolved. It multiplied. While investigators chased shadows and suspects faded into history, one person never stopped waiting. Nancy Beaumont. For her, time did not move forward. It stalled. It fractured. It looped endlessly back to that summer morning. She kept her children's belongings exactly where they were. Their clothes remained folded. Their shoes stayed by the door. She believed, because she had to, that they would come home. Every knock at the door carried hope. Every ringing phone stopped her breath. Years passed. Birthdays came and went. Jane would have grown into a teenager, then an adult. Arnna would have followed. Grant too. But in Nancy's home, they stayed young forever. She refused to declare them dead. To do so would mean letting go. And she was not ready. Even as public attention faded, Nancy continued to cooperate with police. She revisited memories, answered the same painful questions again and again. Each retelling reopened the wound. Her marriage did not survive the weight of the loss. Grief settled into every corner of her life. And yet, she remained composed, graceful, unbroken in her belief that the truth still mattered. When Nancy Beaumont passed away in 2019, she did so without answers. No bodies to bury. No justice to witness. No final chapter. Only the same question she had carried for more than 5 decades. What happened to my children? Music fades almost completely. And with her passing, something else disappeared too. The last living connection to that morning when 3 children walked into the sun and never returned. Nearly 60 years have passed since the Beaumont children disappeared. The world has changed. Technology has advanced. Cities have grown. But the mystery remains untouched by time. There are no graves to visit. No anniversaries marked by certainty. Only 3 faces frozen in black and white photographs. Forever young. Forever waiting. The Beaumont case did more than devastate one family. It changed Australia. Parents stopped letting children roam freely. Beaches no longer felt innocent. Trust, once given without thought, was replaced by fear. And somewhere in that shift, a nation lost part of its childhood. Despite countless investigations, renewed searches, and aging witnesses, the truth has never surfaced. If the person responsible is still alive, they have lived a full life, unpunished, unexposed, untouched by the pain they caused. And if they're dead, they took the answers with them. What haunts investigators most is not just what happened, but how easily it happened. 3 children, a public beach, a crowded day, and yet no one stopped it. No one saw enough. No one knew. Today, Somerton Beach still looks peaceful. Families still visit. Children still laugh. But beneath the sound of the waves lies an unspoken truth. That evil doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it waits. And sometimes it walks away unseen. Until the truth is uncovered. Until someone finally speaks. The Beaumont children are not just missing. They are a reminder that some crimes do not fade. Some questions do not rest. And some cases refuse to die.
Thanks for watching. For more interesting videos, please subscribe.